Hello! Welcome back to more Higurashi. It's been a little while, but I'm looking forward to getting back to it. So let me just post my links in the various places that I usually do. And let's see who shows up. Just as a bit of a recap for anyone watching the VOD, last time we found that Satoko didn't come to school the day after the barbecue, and it turns out it's because she was being made to do errands by her uncle, who she had moved back in with, despite the fact that he is highly abusive. So yes, if you're somehow stumbling into one of these partway through, I recommend going back and watching the previous ones anyway, but the stream will contain a lot of child abuse and similar topics, so be warned. Additionally, we tried to think of what we could do to get her out of the situation. We spoke to various adults and amongst ourselves, had a bit of an argument. It seems like there's nothing we can really do, unfortunately, due to certain circumstances and the way that the child protection services in the nearby town happen to work. There is not much that we can do. So we're feeling a little bit hopeless at the moment, unfortunately, but we'll have to see how the story progresses. No data. That's not good. What do you mean no data? Just because the video feed's not updating? Because, yeah, but should at least be sending audio. Okay. Well, now it says excellent connection, so... Alright, I usually wait about 3 minutes. It's almost been 3 minutes. Let's just go load our thing for the end of chapter 6 here. And continue. I went home and washed the day's sweat off in the shower. Normally I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things. But that didn't happen today. I got out of the shower to find fresh underwear placed neatly in the laundry basket. Normally I didn't stop to think about it, but today I felt happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, it made me realize how much Satoko must be suffering. At the very moment I was appreciating this gentle kindness, Satoko might be being bruised by her uncle's cruel words. I went up to the second floor and shoved myself in my bedroom. Then, facing my desk, I folded my arms. My topic of thought, of course, was Satoko. We thought that if we could just get a public agency to intervene in the right way, the problem would be solved. But with what Coach said, I didn't think it would be so easy. Satoko was obstinate, and she would stubbornly deny the abuse and try to endure it. And that was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then run away. As long as she thought that way, the situation wouldn't be so simple. But earlier, before Coach, I made a clear declaration. If I thought Satoko was in danger, then I would do what I had to. In the end, that meant I was just going to wait and see, too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd drawn a clearer line than Coach or my friends had. If the time came, I would report it, over the phone. Given Satoko's personality, she might criticize me if she found out, but I believed it was ultimately the best decision. Wait, Keiichi Maebara. Would that really be all it took for the problem to end? Say that I reported it to a public agency like the Child Consultation Center. What if they stuck to their wait-and-see attitude like last year again? Last year they decided to do just that, and the situation improved temporarily, but then the aunt, thinking herself a laughingstock, increased her tormenting in secret. In the end, things became more underhanded than ever before. This year it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today, but the man seemed much more direct, much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. He wasn't like their aunt. No, not that subtle. He was more direct. He might also assault her with punches and kicks. That could easily be discerned from the bruises and such I saw on Satoko's body. Shit, you're too naive, Keiichi Maebara. However heroic it may seem to report what was happening, if it doesn't save her, then it doesn't mean anything. Reporting things to a public agency was only one option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. We would need something more, to guarantee Satoko's safety. I scratched madly at my head, thinking, then tilted it back, wanting at least a little bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to mind. I was embarrassed that I hadn't realized it until Rena had said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with the straw-thatched roofs in Hinamizawa, it was really big. We did actually have empty rooms. I've never thought that we were affluent, but also never that we were poor. I just didn't admit it because people would think I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few rooms we could lend to Satoko. The guest rooms are only in use when people related to my dad's job come and stay every once in a while. Plus, if we cleaned up a few of the rooms my dad uses for storage, they could work for her as well. As for food expenses, that might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me could imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends would just have to bring a little bit more for lunch than they usually did. With everyone pecking at everyone else's food anyway, it would be manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, that would have to be up to Mom. I would need to convince her to lend Satoko more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. About how much did it cost for one person to eat? How many tens of thousands of yen per month? They couldn't complain about it if I shouldered that, could they? I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more thanks to New Year's gifts and such, but my parents had taken all that and put it into a fixed time deposit. If I could get access to that, it should add up to a lot of money. And if I got that far, I should ask Mion and Rena to share some of the burden. I've been there with being a teenager, not having my own income, and still being like, okay, how much can I save up for, like, you know, hypothetical, like, trying to help out friends with stuff. Nothing quite this serious, but... And if I got that far, I should ask Mion and Rena to share some of the burden. Of course, I wouldn't depend on that. Rena got mad at me, didn't she? About how I shouldn't just shove responsibility onto others. I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I'd follow through on it. Oh, but it wouldn't be only food expenses. There were a lot of other things that you couldn't do without, like baths and laundry. My mother was awfully methodical and strict about cutting out inefficiencies, and for once that was troublesome. She might even make reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Satoko would use for her own clothes. I couldn't think only about food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Keiichi Maebara, since when was all this about money? Even if you could afford it, you'd need your parents' permission first. They'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. What would I say to persuade them? Just calm down a little bit, Keiichi Maebara, and you'll realize right away that you can't. Even if you ask them seriously, they would tell you to call the police. Even if you manage to gain their empathy, why should the Maebara family have to shoulder all the burden by itself? That's what would happen. That was it. It was very sad and frustrating, but no matter how much I wanted to help, my resolution alone couldn't save anything. Our kids, are they really this powerless? I felt frustrated. I believed my feelings were stronger than anyone else's. I even thought they were stronger than Coach's, and yet... At that point, there were 2 knocks at my door, and my mom poked her head inside. Were you awake? I've been calling you for dinner for a while. Oh, yeah, I'm coming. As someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I just sat around doing nothing and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural to me that I'd shamelessly thought of it as the responsibility of the parents who gave birth to me. I mean, it is, but when I realized that natural thing was actually a right, I came to realize just how hard... Okay, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a right. I don't really know what the difference he's trying to make there is, whatever. I came to realize just how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, had more meaning than that tonight. There was food for 3 on the table right now. For Dad, for Mom, and for me. God, sorry. I couldn't imagine how hard it would be to add another place at the table. Think, Keiichi Maebara. If it was hard to make food for 4, then just think about how 4 people could eat food made for 3. Oh. I changed around the way I thought, and with that I began to consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right. I didn't need to get my parents' permission. She should just live here in secret. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remembered right, if you climbed out the window, then shimmy down the first floor roof or the gutter, you could go in and out of the house directly from my room. Satoko's physical ability far surpassed my own, so it would be even easier for her. I hadn't even thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. I'd only have to bring Satoko to my house when the public agency said they would wait and see. In other words, if Satoko's uncle continued to be her guardian, if, in such a situation, word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Satoko back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would hand her over without an argument, no doubt. So I needed to keep it a secret that she was living here. If it needs to be a secret, then having my parents' help would mean a lot, but gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Okay, persuading my parents was an unrealistic proposition, so I'll search for a way to have her live here in secret. When I was around, she would just have to be really quiet in my room on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. It might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Satoko the stuff she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help all the younger kids out rather than study my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school, so I wouldn't be at home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was this age, so they wouldn't go snooping around in my room while I was gone. I think. If she holed herself up in my room, it'd be okay, right? If my parents did come, thanks to where the 2nd floor was, she could hear their approach from the sound of them coming up the stairs. And there would be a little bit of time before they got all the way up. I estimated a few seconds, that she would be able to hide herself in the closet. Wait, Keiichi. Something doesn't make sense. If she can't go to school, then what'll she do for lunch? Calm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? I should just go to school without lunch and get everyone else to split theirs with me. Okay, that's good. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. I can go with 2 meals a day when I sleep in on Sundays, after all. Every night, I'd pretend as though I had a bigger appetite, then ask for a bigger helping. And then I could just somehow give part of that to Satoko. As a test, I stood up from my seat with my plate of fish in my hands. What's wrong, Keiichi? Sit down and eat your food. Well, I'm kind of not in a good mood. Could I eat up in my room? You'll make a mess. Eat dinner at the dinner table. Sorry. Hey, wait. I only tried to take away 1 plate of fish and they ganged up on me? In reality, it was impossible for me to smuggle food away without my parents knowing about it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. There must be some trick, some method to avoid them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. Well, Keiichi working so hard. Trying to think of a solution. My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think about it from Satoko's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up the stairs right now. I've got to hide. I opened the closet. Clatter, clatter. It didn't open quietly. Hey, wait, didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Why was it suddenly doing this now? Was this house even structurally safe? Was it already showing signs of dilapidation? Or were the hinges just not greased well enough? Could I just apply some lubricating wax? The sound itself may have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed the stairs. But this was an easy problem. I could do something about it. I just had to fix it up a little bit so it didn't make noise anymore. For now, I'll close myself in the closet as though I successfully hid. I basically always left my futon out on the floor. I couldn't think of any real reason my parents would want to go into my closet. Even so, there still might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage so that she wouldn't be noticed even if they did open it. But the more she worried about that, the less time she'd have to actually hide, meaning it would be more likely they'd hear a noise. And then I suddenly had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom? They need to use the toilet. So obvious, and yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the 1st floor. It would be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might need to set up a portable toilet, like a chamber pot, I guess. Oh, Satoko would hate it. So she could go in my room, but the stench would be pretty terrible. Anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming into the room. The bath was okay, though. She could just take a bath when my parents were out. But I couldn't do anything about a toilet. When her stomach started to hurt. If my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then that I noticed that I'd been clawing at my head with both hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face in them and tore at my hair. The more I thought, the more contradictions popped up. The more I thought, the more things failed. And the more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. My back started to hurt from staying in a cramped place for so long. But if I was to shelter Satoko, I would need to force her to feel this pain. To live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place forever. But it would still be better than being abused by her uncle, or so I wanted to think. It got hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of the closet. I looked at the clock, and to my surprise, it was 3:30 in the morning. It felt like so little time, but it was so unbelievably long. When I realized that, I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep, as if the time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it, and I fell flat onto my futon. Shit, I can't just go to sleep like this. If I waste any time, then that'll mean I'm taking the same wait-and-see attitude that Mion and Coach and everyone else did. I needed to keep worrying about how to rescue Satoko for a minute, or even a second longer than everyone else. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way? That one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around and around in a spiral, and steadily took over my entire mind. For my last moment of consciousness, I thought. There were a lot of blind spots in what I considered tonight, but I absolutely wasn't wrong for having those ideas. Tomorrow I would suggest this bold plan to the others. Mio might be able to help somehow, and Lorena was really sharp, so she might have a good suggestion. And above all, we needed to rescue Satoko once again, with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm sorry, Satoko. Lonely stream tonight. Here's hoping someone will show up eventually. The ceiling blurred into view. It was hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voices of the cicadas permeating my room were somehow grating to my head. What? Today's not Sunday, is it? I remembered today was a weekday, and quickly brought myself to consciousness. And then, finally, I leaped out of bed. The clock read a little before 10. I was totally late. When I wandered downstairs, my mom would get mad at me. There was nothing I could do, though. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my bag. I hurried and got dressed, then went down the stairs. There was no sign of my parents anywhere. Maybe they went out somewhere together. So that's how it was. My mother had probably woken me up once this morning, but then I fell back asleep without remembering it. And my parents, thinking I'd gone to school, left. Something like that probably happened. I went to the front door, and as I expected, it was locked. Looked like I was right. It was further evidence of my speculation being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt less like I had to rush to get to school. There was one portion of breakfast left in the dining room. Probably mine. The milk they poured in it had gone warm since a while ago. When I realized how hard it would be to sneak food for Satoko, yesterday I had cried. Well, thinking back on it, food wasn't the only issue in that regard. I wasn't in a position where I could care for Satoko by myself anyway. It's such a heavy thing just to save a single person. I'd seen this on TV and in comics all the time. Those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Was that why I ran my mouth like that, swearing to save her? Because I wanted to feel good about it? No, that absolutely wasn't true. Because the fact was, I couldn't save her. Because I didn't want to think like an adult, like I couldn't do anything but watch. Had Satoko gone to school today? I immediately realized that was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, there wouldn't be a change in the environment she'd been placed in. If I couldn't save her and no one else could either, then we could only pray for a miracle. Are we so powerless? With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put on my shoes and stumbled out the front door. I'd only overslept by 2 or 3 hours, but the sunlight and air felt completely different from how they usually were in the morning. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. I don't know about that. I didn't feel like walking the same old route to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like I didn't want to choose the shortest route, the most proactive one to get to school. Put in a more positive light, maybe I wanted some time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Satoko was safe, but I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. If I went this way, I'd pass Rena's house and the dam site. It would be quite a detour. I calculated how long of a detour it would end up being. Then, satisfied with the answer, I started to walk. Rena had brought me to the dam site a few times. One section of it had turned into an unlawful, oversized garbage dump, and Rena really liked going fishing for junk in there. Without that, she'd come off as a completely normal girl, too. I can think of a few other qualities she could do without, but whatever. The view quickly opened up wide, and I was hit by a strong wind. There was no shelter here at this big dam site. Maybe it was a good thing I came here, I thought. At the very least, it was more healthy to think about stuff in a place like this instead of my cramped bedroom. I took a deep breath and filled my lungs with the rich, cold air unique to Hinamizawa. Ring, ring. I turned around ring, ring. I turned around reflexively. It was a bicycle bell. Considering where I was standing, I don't think they were trying to get me out of the way. They rang the bell because they wanted something from me. Hey, excuse me. You're from Hinamizawa, right? Yes, why? I've seen this person around a few times. Right, I remembered. His name, I think, was Tomitake, a freelance photographer who lived in Tokyo. He would zealously visit Hinamizawa every season to take pictures, or so Miona and the others had told me, I think. Could you tell me how to get to the Higurashi shrine from here? Dude, haven't you been here a bunch of times? I think I left my map at the inn. I don't know where to go. The shrine? From here? I knew where everything was in my head, but explaining how to get there was difficult. I was a little irritated at having been bothered for this, but when I realized it meant my detour actually meant something, that feeling faded quickly. I'll tell you, but it's a little difficult to explain. I could bring you there if you don't mind. Really? I would be in your debt. Thanks a lot. But are you sure? Did you have something to do? Tomitake-san finally appeared to have realized how strange it was for a student like me to be here at this time of day. I smoothly told him not to worry about it, then turned my back and started walking towards the Higurashi shrine. Tomitake-san hurried to turn his bike around and came after me. Sorry. Don't worry. All guys have times when they need to split up from the pack and be lone wolves for a while. What a free-minded freelancer. It was easier for me, too, that he was under that impression. I'm Tomitake, a freelance photographer. I specialize in wild birds and landscapes. I'm still pretty unknown, though. It seemed absurd for him to introduce himself when I was just showing him to the shrine, but he gave me his name, so I needed to give mine back. I'm Maebara. Pleased to meet you, I guess. Maebara-kun. Pleased to meet you. He seemed like a pretty silly man, but that felt kind of good considering I'd been suffocating with worry over Satoko all night. Along the way, Tomitake-san spoke at length to me about how precious the nature in Hinamizawa was, and how it was a treasure trove of rare wild birds, despite my not having asked. I wasn't interested in what he had to say, but he seemed to be enjoying himself, so I left him to it. These steps will take you out to the shrine grounds. Thank you! You really helped me out. I think I'm a little late. As Tomitake-san mumbled to himself, he left his bicycle nearby and started to climb the stairs quickly. I didn't have a watch, but as far as my internal clock could guess, it was still a little late in the morning. School wasn't very far from here. Maybe I could kill a little more time until then. With that in mind, I went up the steps in pursuit of Tomitake-san. When I reached the top of the long staircase, I arrived at the wide-open shrine grounds that were too grand-looking for this tiny village. Tomitake-san. Oh, there he is. It looked like he was supposed to be meeting someone here. Then he got lost and ended up being late. He was bowing to a lady who must have been the person he was meeting. That lady, I knew her. Oh, is that you, Maebara-kun? Hello there. Are you off from school today? What? Oh, Maibara-kun, you followed me. I wasn't really planning to. I just wanted to kill some time. Oh my. Arriving at work late like an executive. How refined. You certainly are famous, taking the time to look like a big shot. What was I, a celebrity? Well, she did say my name out of nowhere anyway. I was oddly concerned about what she meant by famous. Oh, you still can't remember my name? This is Mio Takano-san. She works at the village clinic. Maibara-kun, you seem healthy, so you probably haven't been to the hospital much, have you? Now that we're finally acquaintances, the next time you're sick or anything, I suppose I'll give you a little bit of special treatment. This lady named Takano-san, I kind of didn't remember her. Maybe we passed each other on the street a few times, but I was pretty sure this is the first time we'd talked. Well, this is Hinamizawa. Even if I don't know a person's name, it's not unusual for them to know mine. I glanced at Takano-san and saw she had a bag and a camera. Are you photography partners? Was that why you were meeting each other? Oh, we're nothing like partners. I am but an amateur, and Jiro-san is gently initiating me into it. Right? That's not it at all. Takano-san is a quick learner. She could take pictures just fine without my guidance. I mean it. Couldn't tell which of them was ahead in the conversation. Well, there's certainly one couple you wouldn't get tired of watching. The festival's finally coming up the day after tomorrow. I hope I can take some good pictures this year. I plan on taking some shots of the setup tomorrow. I want to capture the festival energy shown by the preparations for it, too. Oh, I just remembered. There was some village festival called Watanagashi or something the day after tomorrow on Sunday. They hold a service with a pile of old futons in order to give thanks to Hinamizawa's guardian deity, Oyashiro-sama, I think. Oh, you're correct. You have quite extensive knowledge despite just having moved here. Yes, it is a festival to give thanks to Oyashiro-sama. Takano-san smiled somehow meaningfully, but didn't tell me what part of a festival to thank Oyashiro-sama needed to be laughed at. Cryptic as ever, Takano-san. But I do wonder what will happen this year. You know what they say, if it happens twice, it'll happen a third time. And it's already happened 4 times. I think there's less evidence that it won't happen a fifth time, don't you think? I knew what they meant by their whispered exchange. On the day of Watanagashi, a freak death always occurs, which people call Oyashiro-sama's curse, and a disappearance occurs that people call being demoned away. These strange events had happened 4 years running, and Watanagashi, rapidly approaching the day after tomorrow, marked the 5th. Oyashiro-sama puts a curse on enemies of the village, huh? If it does happen this year, I wonder, who will find themselves at gunpoint? Oh, and I always come here to pray and donate money wherever I visit. It won't be me for sure. Oh, is that so? They say that Oyashiro-sama has been especially harsh on outsiders recently, you know? Maibara-kun may have only just moved in, but he's a proper member of Hinamizawa. But you, Jiro-san, are a stranger who only comes once a year. I wonder, will he let you go this year? That's harsh! Tomitake-san was the only one with a pained grin, but we were all smiling, me included. Oyashiro-sama. The one who used a curse to kill people involved with the dam construction project, one after the next. He killed the dam construction manager, killed Satoko's parents for supporting it, and the next year he even killed her aunt. If the demoning away was part of that curse, then you could add Satoshi to the list of victims. As I thought about it, I realized that in the serial freak death incidents, the overwhelming majority had the last name Hojo. Half of the deaths and disappearances had come from the Hojo family. The Hojo family lived here in Hinamizawa. Did that mean Oyashiro-sama punished and cursed them particularly harshly because despite that, they'd been in favor of the dam? Have you heard the news that Satoko's uncle has returned? Takano-san, who had been enjoying a few words with Tomitake-san, was caught unaware by my sudden inquiry. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Satoko's parents were killed by the curse, and her aunt too. So I was wondering if maybe if you went in order, her uncle would be next. Her aunt had a miserable death from the curse last year, and her uncle let his fear take over and fled into town, right? Oyashiro-sama doesn't allow people to try and abandon the village, does he? Oops, I hadn't intended to be quite this persistent. But those words, they just flowed out of my mouth without me thinking about it. Right. Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't believe in something so unrealistic, of course, but the fact was that every year, unfortunate accidents and incidents happened to enemies of the village. Like Takano-san said just now, it had happened 4 times. No one could say there wouldn't be a 5th. That's an interesting suggestion. It is true that if you look at those sacrificed in previous years, those named Hojo come up quite frequently. Given how long it's gone on for, her uncle being the one to die or disappear this year isn't out of the question. Not again, Takano-san. Don't laugh about it, it could really happen. I'm sorry. But Oyashiro-sama's curse is my life's work. Takano-san gave off a mysterious, somehow intellectual impression, and her life's work was mysterious in its own right. She probably really liked inexplicable supernatural phenomena or something. Takano-san, you seem like you know a lot about Oyashiro-sama. Give me your honest thoughts. Given that he's a Hojo and that he's returned, what are the chances that the uncle will fall to the curse? My, what? You seem like you really want this uncle of hers dead. That's not... I wonder. It all depends on the whims of God. Maibara-kun, do you know the true identity of Santa Claus? Huh? I got a strange question all of a sudden, and I couldn't immediately answer. What, you don't know? It's your daddy. The daddies in everyone's family. What? That's what you meant? Well, of course. Everything ultimately comes down to humans in the end. After all, humans are the only ones living in the world. All strange things should be explainable in terms of human actions. I felt like I put that somewhat strangely, but Takano-san was not as dissatisfied with that reply as I might have guessed. Oh, it's impressive that you caught on to that at such a young age. You're right. Strange things that happen in the world of man are all caused by man for his own benefit. Maibara-kun, I'll ask you again then. This time, not Santa Claus, but Oyashiro-sama. Do you know anything about who Oyashiro-sama is? Takano-san took a step towards me and gazed into my eyes as she asked. Santa Claus was really the parents of every family's children. Oops. If lionizing that legend was a corporate tactic to try and profit during Christmas sales, then what was Oyashiro-sama really? Didn't you already say? There are only humans in this world. Everything can be explained by human actions, right? Maibara-kun. Wait, what? In the subtitle, it says Maibara-kun, but the voice clip says Keiichi-kun. Whatever. Keep this to yourself, okay? This string of freak death incidents attributed to Oyashiro-sama's curse. Takano-san's view is that they may be premeditated homicides performed by the people of Hinamizawa and based on some kind of ceremony. No, don't misunderstand me. My life's work is to research teachings, thoughts, and cultures from the viewpoint of folklorism. Did she say Raifuwaku? That's good. I don't really care at all about who the culprit really is. Just keep that in mind, please. I could tell only that she was saying some crazy stuff. To use a food analogy, like you'd force-feed a duck to be fattened. She forced her words down my throat. That's what it felt like. To understand that in the first place, you have to go all the way back to ancient times, when Hinamizawa was called Onigafuchi, or the Demon's Abyss. I am live, right? It's weird that I go this long without anybody showing up. Usually I get at least one person. I am live, okay. Did anyone say anything? Nope. Dunno then. Well, let's just keep going. The Transcendents who live there believe themselves to carry the blood of demons, and so were only half human. Takano-san, having entered her home field, leaned forward and began to speak of ridiculous matters. Tomitake-san realized she was overawing me and interrupted for me. Takano-san, Takano-san! You can't just chatter on about that stuff to Maibara-kun. Look, he's really confused. Oh my, are you? If you want to hear more, ask me anytime. I have heaps of the grotesque stories that boys your age seem to love hearing. Thank you. If I feel like it, I will. For now, I softly and safely gave my refusal. Takano-san seemed a little unhappy that Tomitake-san had rained on her parade, but she stopped talking about it then. Even so, it was still a very interesting story. That Oyashiro-sama's curse, which we thought of as strange freak deaths, were really homicides, perpetrated by people of the village. I suppose even if somebody was to start now, they'd have to try to catch up on double speed or something. Which at the moment would take them about 19 minutes. The earliest I can realistically expect anybody to show up is about 20 minutes from now, I guess. So. That Oyashiro-sama's curse, which we thought of as strange freak deaths, were really homicides perpetrated by people of the village. Well, I mean, if you thought about it logically, it would have to be. If people wouldn't be dying because of a curse. Someone's obviously killing people and making it look like one. Indeed. As for who that is, it might be safer not to try and find out. You seem like you know, Takano-san. You may not have proof, but you seem like you believe it. Oh my, why do you think that? I just kind of felt it vaguely. It didn't seem like her extreme passion for this research would calm down just because these things were taboo, or because it was safer and easier. This person loved walking through the profound, forbidden abyss of risks and taboos. Let's leave it at that, Keiichi-kun. I just helped you escape, and now you're trying to talk about Oyashiro-sama again. I wanted to take a nice walk while it was still cool. Tomitake-san seemed a little disappointed not to be able to go on the date he planned since I brought up a weird topic. But right now there was something I wanted to ask, just for a little bit. And that was about whether Satoko's uncle will be chosen for the curse this year. If he was, then another miracle would happen, just like last year. A terrible incident would happen again, but it would release Satoko from her unfortunate circumstances once more. Well, I do have a few suspicions as to the kind of people who will probably become involved, of course. It's a natural, inevitable conclusion for anyone who's researched the history of Onigapuchi village. Who do you mean? What would I do if I knew? I asked that question to the other me deep inside, but got no reply. How enthusiastic. What would you do if you knew? Nothing really. If you found out, you might get into danger yourself, you know. Maybe the 5th year's curse would be you. Takano-san, toying with taboo, gave a devilish, satisfied smile, as though nothing in the world would be more amusing. She was probably trying to tease me, but I didn't feel like going along with her little game one bit. You like to talk pretty big, but you don't really know yourself, do you, Takano-san? I felt a tinge of irritation at Takano-san's roundabout way of speaking, but those emotions escaped my mouth like water flowing through a strainer. Even I was surprised at how directly I'd spoken out about what I felt. Of course, I wasn't the only one taken aback. Oh my! You're something. You may be just a boy, but you can still provoke people. How unexpectedly rugged. I don't dislike people like that, you know. Takano-san's tongue poked out of her mouth, and I was convinced that it was long, thin, and split in the middle like a snake's. Alright. I'll tell you then. But you have to promise me 3 things first. 1, not to regret it, no matter what I tell you. 2, not to tell it to anyone. 3, not to tell anyone I told you. I gulped firmly and nodded. Tomitake-san made an exaggerated expression of distress, gave a dry, vague smile, and lit a cigarette. Please tell me, who's putting this curse on people? Who is it? Who's deciding who gets cursed? And after I said that, I finally realized why I wanted to know. Ooh, spooky. Many of my classmates were playing freely in the schoolyard. A few of them had just run out of the school building after putting on their shoes and tapping their toes to the ground. It looked like they had just finished eating lunch. From a time-manipulating standpoint, I guess I succeeded. Oh! Mayabara-san! Are you okay? A few girls noticed me and came running over. It was only natural they were worried. You'd think if someone wasn't there in the morning, they'd be out the rest of the day. Well, I'm just late for school. Don't worry about it. Anyway, what about Satoko? Did she come today? The girls exchanged glances. I saw a thin shadow fall over their faces and knew the answer without needing to hear them reply. Satoko was absent today, too. When all was said and done, after being out 3 days, she'd only come back for 1. And now she was out again. Who knew she would come tomorrow? Yeah, but the teacher said she got a phone call from Satoko-chan. She said she had a cold. Chie-sensei said everyone should make sure to rinse their mouths out really well. Wait a minute, Chie-sensei. That's a little too thick-headed, don't you think? You're a teacher, aren't you? Why can't you be more sensitive and catch on to the fact that your pupil is sending out an SOS? But even if she did, there was nothing we could hope for. The most she could do was a home visitation. She didn't have any right to take Satoko from her uncle into safety. No matter the result, it would end up just like the public agencies, with a wait-and-see attitude. It would just piss Satoko's uncle off, and her suffering would only grow deeper. Then wasn't saying she had a cold the best option? She's right. Be careful not to catch a cold, got it? You can go now. There's still plenty of time left in lunch break. The girls excitedly scattered into the schoolyard. Oh, Kate-kun! Rana was yelling out the classroom window, waving her hand. A moment later, Mion and Rika-chan poked their heads out too. We were very worried that even you'd be absent today. Thank goodness! You don't seem sick. You look pretty okay. I felt a little uncomfortable with her saying that I didn't look sick, but I didn't care that much. What happened? Overslept? Well, late is late. I think if I said I was late because of a train accident, she'd let it slide. You overslept? Mion was being a bit persistent. Was she going to put on her club president cap and scold me for being late? Well, maybe she didn't have it in for me, so I briefly stated that she was right. There's still more bento. Everyone eat up! Without Kichikun here, we couldn't have any fun. Satoko is still absent, huh? Even the Dana, feigning cheerfulness, couldn't stand to hear that, and her face darkened. She called this morning. Apparently she said her cold came back and she was staying home again. She said it might go on for a while, too. She must be sad, so we were all talking about going to visit. What are you saying, Rika-chan? Not pleased with Rika-chan wearing a wide smile as though it were a happy occasion, I threw cold water on her. We know best of all she doesn't have a cold, don't we? Don't ever tell a fib like that again, even as a joke. I'll get mad next time. Rika-chan furrowed her brow, looked down, and mumbled an apology. It's not just you, Kichikun. It's hard for everyone. I know I'm not the only one worrying, but none of us can do anything either, can we? That's true, but... I got the feeling I would cause another fight if this exchange went on, so I apologized first. Sorry. I'm sorry, so forget about what I just said. It's hard for everyone, right? It must be. It was at least clear, however, that I was the only one who worried so much about rescuing her. At the very least, everyone else probably got about the normal amount of sleep last night. Probably had good dreams, too. They definitely hadn't stayed up all night thinking so desperately. I know it might not be what you want to hear right after you get to school. But you were late today, Kei-chan. Did it have anything to do with Satoko being absent? Huh? Mion, what are you talking about? Sometimes you act kind of foolhardy, Kei-chan. When both you and her were absent this morning, we seriously thought you might have kidnapped her and hidden her somewhere. Easy for you to say. If I could have, I'd have done that last night. None of them had really thought about how difficult that clear-as-day solution was. I was up all night, thinking until the night was brightening, and then I concluded that I couldn't do anything of the sort. Don't be dumb. I couldn't hide someone. You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize if I upset you. Don't worry about it. Anyway, let's eat some food. I'm starving. I took my bento box out of my bag. Everyone moved to make a spot for me to sit. Maebara-kun, did you just get here? And just as I was about to stick my chopsticks in, Chie-sensei came along. Yeah. Sorry for being late. I overslept. What the heck? Even the teacher was giving me that strange look. When you finished eating, could you and the president come to the teacher's lounge? There's something I want to talk about. Probably about Satoko, I thought. Sensei left it at that and went back out into the hallway. Eating lunch can wait. Let's go, Mion. You're right. Mion and I exchanged looks, nodded to each other, and got up. It's probably about Satoko-chan. No doubt about it. They were saying she had a cold, but everyone in class knew the truth. I didn't think that would have reached the teacher's ears by now. I kept playing dumb, so I think she gave up asking me. Revealing the truth to the teacher would only worsen the situation. Was that why she hadn't said anything? Or was it because she was Satoko's friend, and knew that she was trying to endure the trial of her uncle's abuse in order to get her brother to come home? What should we do? Maybe we should use this chance to get a collective opinion. What do you want to do, Rika-chan? Me. Satoko's closest and best friend was Rika-chan. However much I pretended to be her nini, it didn't come close to the amount of time they'd spent together. So I felt like her opinion should be held in the highest regard. I know why Satoko is enduring her uncle's torture. Everyone looked startled and turned to me. Back then, whenever Satoko was abused, she probably cried and hid behind her brother. But Satoko thinks that, in the end, that's why her brother ran away. Pardon me, Jesus Christ. Who did you hear that from? The coach, I bet. I nodded quietly. Satoko believes her brother will come back if she can withstand the abuse. Maybe that's why she's trying to push through. But that assumption has nothing to do with Satoshi coming back. It hurts to say that about Satoko, but it's the truth. Everyone hung their heads. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Satoko probably won't be happy no matter who helps her. She wants to withstand everything with her own strength. But is it really right to respect that? I don't think it is. Even if Satoko hates us for a while, I think there will come a time when we need to save her against her will. And I think that time might be now. I told them all about what I saw and how I felt when I went to Satoko's house yesterday. Keiichi-kun, so you think we should tell someone? Of course, only after we're sure that reporting it to a public agency will guarantee her safety. Without being sure of that, it could just get more dangerous for her instead. It's a difficult problem. You think we can get a definite promise out of the teacher? I had no confidence, but we had to try. Meanwhile, Rika-chan had her hand raised for a while, as if asking for an opportunity to speak. I will leave it to Keiichi. What? Is that okay, Rika-chan? Did I miss a line from me on there? No. Keiichi is thinking about Satoko more than anybody else here. If Keiichi thinks that we need to tell someone, then I have no complaints. Thanks. Mion. Rena, are you okay with that? Mion seemed to hesitate, not knowing if she should agree. But when she saw Rena's firm nod, she made up her mind and did the same. Okay, let's go, Mion. Right. Only Chie-sensei was in the teacher's lounge. We didn't see the principal anywhere. The schedule on the blackboard under the principal's name said, "Training, going straight home." Our principal's sense of justice was too strong. Satoko's problems wouldn't be solved with something so vague. Maybe it was a stroke of good luck that he wasn't here. When the teacher saw Mion and I come in, she closed up her curry bento, saving the rest for later. Later. Sit over there, please. She told us to take a seat in the chairs directly in front of the principal's seat. I hadn't sat in this chair since doing the paperwork for transferring in. The two of us sat there uncomfortably before the teacher walked over carrying a notebook and ballpoint pen and sat in front of us. Maebara-kun, you were absent this morning. Did something happen? I'm sorry, I overslept. Really? I have no reason to lie. She narrowed her eyes at me in suspicion. Now I was sure of it. She wanted to talk about Satoko. In any case, I think you two already know, but your friend Hojo-san has been away frequently lately. Neither Mion nor I had anything to say in response, but the teacher proceeded, not minding. Would you happen to know anything? There are some people in class spreading bad rumors. Mion looked down and remained silent, as though she were being lectured. She sent me a quick glance. Everyone had made up their minds. They'd be leaving things to me. Mion-kun? Or you, Maibara-kun? I won't get mad or anything, okay? If you know something, I just want you to tell me. Sensei, can we ask you a question first? She must not have anticipated that response. She looked surprised. I don't know what rumors are going around about Satoko in class. But if those rumors happen to be true, what would you do, Sensei? Well, what would I do? If it's true, then I can't leave it alone. Can't leave what alone exactly? What would you do? Sensei's eyebrows shot up. Maybe I said it like I was trying to pick a fight. Maibara-kun! I'm being serious here. So am I. I'm also being completely serious right now. Please answer me. If it were true, what wouldn't you leave alone? Sensei took a few breaths, then began to speak slowly. First, I'd have to visit Hojo-san's house to confirm the situation. Her uncle might get mad and drive you away, though. Well, okay. Let's say you did meet with Satoko and her uncle. Then what? Then I'd ask whether it was true. Once I got the facts, I'd go from there. Please stop talking so vaguely. What exactly would you do? Even despite my tone being so provocative, Chie-sensei bit back her emotions and listened calmly. I thought then that she was a good teacher. Chie-sensei really did have her students' best interests at heart. But she didn't have the power or the authority to save Satoko. If she let her sense of justice run away with her, the situation could get more complex. Sensei folded her arms, and for a few moments she closed her eyes as though mentally concentrating. And when they opened again, there was a strictness in her eyes that I had never seen before. There's a law called the Child Welfare Law. It clearly states that abuse against children will not be allowed, no matter who it is. So it would seem. Then what? I'd contact the Okinomiya Child Consultation Center. You said just now that I would be turned away, didn't you? Child welfare officers can bring the police with them if the situation demands. They'll not submit to intimidation. How many days would it take you after you contact the social worker and submit the paperwork for her to be saved? It would be the same day. Their job is to guarantee the immediate safety of children. I know that. That's if they decide there's an urgent need. If they didn't, then they'd do the same as you. They'd go from there. They'd just wait and see, right? They'd just watch. It would make Satoko's uncle's mood sour, and Satoko would be stuck with him there. Kei-chan, that's going a little too far. I'm not lying, am I? Last year, or the year before, whatever. That's exactly what happened when the child welfare people came, isn't it? And what happened then? You and Sensei would know about it a lot better than I would. I had said too much. I didn't need Mion to tell me that. I was talking crazy and itching for a fight. I was supposed to be telling her about the situation only after I was sure we could save Satoko, but I basically told her everything right from the start. Chie-sensei looked at the clock, stood up, and picked up the phone at the principal's seat. Hello? Put me through to extension 3455, please. Is this okay, Kei-chan? Is this really okay? I just realized the fucking genie lamp on top of the regular lamp there, which also has a bunch of post-its or something stuck onto it. What the fuck is this room decoration? Anyway. Oops, it was too late. The die had been cast. Now we could only pray. Oh, thank you for answering my call. I'm Chie, a licensed teacher at the Hinamizawa branch school. Would Director Watanabe happen to be in the guidance office? Yes, that's right. Something urgent came up, so I'd like to contact the principal as soon as I can. Yes. Thank you. Please tell him immediately. Yes, thank you. The teacher put down the phone and tilted her head back and took a breath like I always did. I'll ask the two of you again. Are the rumors going around class really true? Yes. Yesterday I went to Satoko's house and saw for myself just how bad it really is. Pardon me? You can leave the rest to me. I'll definitely do something for Satoko-chan. Something? Please stop saying such ambiguous things. Not something. We need to save her. We have to save her. If they end up deciding to wait and see again, how do you plan on taking responsibility? While I was yelling, the phone rang. Chie-sensei snatched the receiver up first. Hello. Oh, I apologize for interrupting your training. Yes. Actually, it's about the issue with Satoko Hojo-san. Yes. Sensei waved us away, telling us we could leave now. Neil went to leave, but I held my ground. I had a responsibility to make sure she stopped saying such vague, ambiguous things. If it didn't look like she was going to say anything substantial, then I'd tell them the truth, even if I had to steal the phone from her. Yes. No, I haven't contacted them yet. Yes. I haven't confirmed it, but it seems pretty bad from what the children are saying. It's not just pretty bad! Do something about it! Right now! If you're gonna report it, then I don't care who you tell! But I swear, if they end up just waiting and watching, I'll never forgive you! I yelled angrily at Sensei and the principal on the other end. I wanted to somehow, some way convince them just how dangerous her situation was right now. I understand that. I will tell them as much. Mion-kun, please take Mayabara-kun back to the classroom. Yes, ma'am. Let's go, Kei-chan. We should leave this to the teachers now. You better promise. Until the very last moment, I glared at Sensei. Chie-sensei was feeling pressured by the likes of me. Idiot, this isn't the time to feel pressured. Now's the time when you give me a firm nod to reassure me. Even so, we've already left things in her hands. At this point, we really can't do anything but pray. Bang! Mion shut the door to the teacher's lounge. New tips. And achievement unlocked, influence. Okay. Let's view the new tips. Article. Article 2, definition of child abuse. The term child abuse means the following acts committed by a custodian, meaning a person who exercises parental authority, a guardian of a minor, or other person who is currently engaged in the custody of a child. Hereinafter, the same shall apply. Against a child, meaning a person who is under 18 years of age, hereinafter the same shall apply. 1. Assault the child in a manner that will cause or is likely to cause external injury on the body of a child. Number 2. Engage in indecency against the child or cause the child to engage in indecency. 3. Substantially reduce the amount of food for the child or abandon and neglect the child for a long time period in a manner that may interfere with normal development of the child mentally or physically, or otherwise materially fail to perform the duty of a custodian. Or 4. Speak or behave in a manner that would be significantly traumatic to the child. Article 3. Prohibition of child abuse. No person shall abuse a child. Act number 82 of 2000. Authored by the Minister of Health and Welfare. Okay. Statistics from the Health and Welfare. Year 19-something. Principal abusers, in cases reported to the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Total, 5,352. Mother by blood, 2,943, or 55%. Mother not by blood, 203, 3.8%. Father by blood, 1,445, 27%. Father not by blood, 488, 9.1%. It's true, mothers are more likely to commit child abuse than fathers. I'm not really sure why this is the case. Year 19 something. Instances by type of abuse in cases reported to the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Total, 5,352. Physical abuse, 2,780, 51.9%. Neglect, abandonment of child, 1,728, 32.3%. Psychological abuse, 458, 8.6%. Forbidden from going to school, 75, 1.4%. Sexual violence, 311, 5.8%. Well, those were very to-the-point tips there. Alright. The die of fate had been cast. Reporting to a public agency, which we kept being warned could instead result in something far worse for Satoko if we didn't have the evidence first. And just like that. Had I failed? Had I let my emotions get the better of me in that moment? Maybe I should have stayed silent and left everything to Mion, since she had been relatively calm. I remembered the punishment game where we had to badmouth Curry, and how me saying anything would have made it worse, and Satoko told us to leave the talking to her. Maybe it was the same thing here. I was impulsive, so maybe I should have just shut up and looked at the floor. But it was too late to lament it. The die I had thrown wouldn't be coming back into my hands. All we could do was pray for something good to happen. Keiichi-kun, you did everything you could. So leave it to the teachers now. Okay? Everything I could? If I really gave it everything I had, if I really struggled, I would have dragged Satoko out of her home last night and hidden her in some abandoned house. I didn't, so that means I didn't do everything I could. Stop thinking about it, alright? You're being a little too persistent, Keiichi-kun. At this rate, you'll collapse. Just leave me alone. I left her with those words and stared lazily up at the ceiling. I wondered if I'd really got Chie-sensei to understand. Would the public agency intervene and solve everything within the day? Would they acknowledge the abuse and guarantee her safety? After lunch break, our afternoon classes were mostly self-study. The teacher came back to the classroom occasionally, but then the phone in the lounge would ring and she'd have a long conversation with the caller. Everyone in class got the feeling they knew what those phone calls were about. Sensei came trotting back from the classroom. I'm really sorry for all the phone calls recently. Let's call it a day. President, please lead the class. Everybody stand up! It looked to me like Sensei had been wearing a dark expression ever since after lunch break. It wasn't a very relieving expression. It wouldn't be. Even if Sensei 100% understood the situation and passionately explained it to the other person. At the end, the Child Consultation Center, as a public agency, would be the ones to decide whether to get her to safety. Sensei understood that as well as us, and that's why she looked so unreliable right now. Kei-chan, let's go home. I don't think anyone feels like having the club today. Mi-chan, it's no fun if someone's not here. Donna was right. It was no fun for us if someone was missing. If the teacher's expression had shown more promise, then maybe we could have gone home more comfortably. But I couldn't let myself feel relieved. I couldn't be naive and tell myself all I can do is pray, now that the dice have been cast. Just in case they didn't get her to safety and decided to wait and see again. I'd need to take further measures. We've asked the people who could do something official already. Then there was one more place that was worth asking for help. She might laugh it off, or I might be right and I could be endangering my own life. But I'd try. Mion, is it okay if I stop by your place today? You've got a lot of manga, right? I want to borrow a bunch of them. Huh? Sure, I guess. There was an ominous meaning behind my words, so Mion realized what I really meant right away. I wanted to talk about something alone. That's what I meant. Mi-chan! Keiichi-kun! Let's go home! Harana already had her shoes on and was waving to us from the schoolyard. Mion's house was gigantic in every way imaginable. The house itself was vaguely old-fashioned. A vaguely old-fashioned traditional Japanese house, but the yard, I guess, or their plot of land, was enormous. It easily convinced me that they really were major landowners, with Hinamizawa under their thumb. Mion brought me through the guest room, and a servant brought us some tea. Wow. You really are rich, huh? You've even got housekeepers. Grandma and I are the only ones who live here. I wouldn't be able to do everything myself. The servant left, telling us it was 5 o'clock, and withdrew with soft footsteps. We have people come in to take care of Grandma and clean 2 or 3 times a week. They come in rotations of 3 or 4, so there's someone here almost every day. Only until evening, though. Oh, and if we're having a party or something where we need more help, we call up different people. If you had the money to hire all these people, then just take Satoko in. I glared at her as I thought that, and Mion seemed to catch on immediately. Oh, sorry. It's fine. I know it's not a money problem. Just to be clear, my family may be rich, but it's not money that I can use freely for myself, okay? I don't want you to misunderstand that. It kind of looked like I was bullying her. Mion had been apologizing to me a lot lately. Was Mion the sort of person who would do that this much? Maybe it's just that I've been looking so grim lately. So, what's up? You had something to talk about, right? I have something pretty serious to discuss, Mion. This will be sudden and you might be surprised, but I want you to hear me out. Huh? What? Oh. I'll give you a way out first. Even if what I say is true, you don't need to admit it. You're allowed to play dumb, but I want you to listen until the end. I have something to say to the next leader of what's still the most important of the 3 families of Onikafuchi village, Mion Sonozaki. At first, Mion looked like she had no idea what I was saying, but at hearing the whole sentence and putting it together, she reacted. Where did you hear that? It doesn't really matter. I definitely couldn't tell her who told me. Takano-san, you told me not to, but please forgive me. This was why I asked you about it, after all. I was surprised just that you'd heard of Onikafuchi village, Kei-chan. But you seem to know a lot of things, both true and false, about me, too. Yeah. True and false. I really might just have the wrong impression here. But I'm okay with that, so listen. And if it really is true... I don't know what you're getting at, Kei-chan, but let me say this beforehand. You've got a big misunderstanding. So if it were possible, I wouldn't want to hear what you're about to say. Because even if you said it, I can't do anything to help you. Still, if talking about it will lighten your burden even a little, I'll listen. I'm only just going to listen. Nothing more will happen. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Mion seemed to know what kind of thing I'd be talking about. She warned me that doing so would be fruitless. That much was obvious. If what I was going to say was true, then the Sonozaki family would be the masterminds behind the string of freak deaths that have been occurring every year in Hinamizawa. You know that stuff about Oyashiro-sama's curse, right? Mio nodded a little. No one knows what it is or why it happens. Even if each incident is solved, the string of deaths and accidents as a whole is still a mystery. But there's one thing connecting them all. And that's how the targets are always enemies of the village. Seems like it. Mion spoke as if it didn't relate to her. That was fine. She didn't have to admit it. For now, I just wanted her to stay quiet and listen to me. The day after tomorrow, it's Watanagashi, isn't it? Has the sacrifice for this year's curse been decided already? Mion didn't answer. Her expression remained the same, too. Like she said, she was just quietly listening. Sorry. The promise was that you'd just listen, so it's weird for me to ask a question, huh? Mion gave me a look she'd never given me before. A faraway look. A sympathetic one. She didn't nod. She just smiled faintly and listened to me. If this year's curse isn't going to be on Satoko's uncle, then please change it to him. I mean, last year it was her aunt, right? It's in the right order, so it wouldn't be weird. You're right. It seems like there's an order. I mean, after her aunt died to the curse last year, he abandoned Satoko and fled into the town for a whole year. Why wouldn't a guy like that definitely be next on Oyashiro-sama's list? There shouldn't be any issue with choosing him for this year. I see. If you were to die from the curse this year, no one would see anything unusual about it. I heard that Oyashiro-sama's curse is, well, no matter how I looked at it, I wasn't sure whether I should continue. No matter how I tried, the words wouldn't come out. The string of freak deaths in Hinamizawa, also called Oyashiro-sama's curse. You're saying that they're incidents perpetrated by the village, carried out by the three families at the Sonozaki's instructions? Is that it? I wasn't... I don't care one bit whether you have anything to do with it. I'm just saying, if you have any way of communicating with whoever decides targets of the curse, then I just want you to tell them to choose Satoko's uncle. Please! Everything you've been saying has been terrible. If the freak death incidents in Hinamizawa were carried out by the will of the Sonozaki family, that would mean the main culprit would be me, wouldn't it? I would have chosen the target of the curse, given the instructions, killed many people, and gotten rid of others. You're calling me a murderer, Kei-chan. I didn't say that! Didn't you listen to me? I don't care whether you're the one behind the murders or not, I just don't! Even if you were the culprit, it doesn't change the fact that you're my friend! It doesn't matter at all! If the police were chasing you, I'd come to help! I'd make you an alibi and even help you escape! Because we're friends and comrades! Aren't we? Mion looked surprised for a while. She was dumbfounded. Now you're declaring yourself complicit? Kei-chan, that's pretty bold of you. Come on, don't interrupt! Satoko's uncle! Choose him for... Stop right there, Kei-chan. I want to start on dinner soon, so I'd like to leave things at this. Mion! I then realized that my cheeks were wet with tears. They slid down my chin and fell, drip-drop, to the tatami mat. It's like I said at the start. You've got a big misunderstanding. Oyashiro-sama's curse is just that. Even if there were people behind those incidents, they don't have anything to do with the Sonozaki family, or me either. Right. I understand that. It's just... It was touching to hear such a desperate plea, Kei-chan, but that was all it was. Even if I wanted to help, I can't. You understand that too, right? Yeah. But now I know how you feel so well it hurts. If I really were, like you said, the one controlling the 3 families and choosing the sacrifices every year, I'd probably grant your wish. Mion! But the reality is different. I'm just Mion Sonozaki. My family may be the subject of all sorts of bad rumors about controlling Hinamizawa from the shadows. But we have nothing to do with the freak death incidents. We may have been a little extreme during the dam war, but that's all. We would never do something so insane as to kill people. Don't say such sad things! Right now, at least. I don't care! Why can't you just be nice and lie to me? Kei-chan, you're free to believe what you like. If I lied to you now, you'd be convinced Satoko would be freed the night after tomorrow and you'd be able to shed much of your burden. Who is asking me? However, reality is harsh. Satoko's uncle will survive beyond that day. He'd still be alive next week, and the week after that. You'd need to prepare yourself for that. I don't want you coming to me the day after Watanagashi and demanding to know why he wasn't killed. Mion. Mion stood up slowly and closed the sliding door to keep out the wind that had grown chilly. Was it Mio-san? Did she give you all those ideas? She really likes to misunderstand things about Hinamizawa. Well, we can let her have her fun. But I don't really want her influencing you, Kei-chan. Jeez. This is why outsiders are no good. Takano-san has nothing to do with it! Right. Don't worry. I'll protect you from the scary dark. Even though I know she told you about it, Kei-chan, nothing's gonna happen. It's not like Mio-san will be chosen for this year's curse. Besides, we don't even know for sure if the curse will happen this year. Maybe it was all just a pile of unfortunate coincidences. Thanks for listening. If you weren't connected to the serial deaths at all, then that must have been an uncomfortable conversation. I'll apologize for it. I see. You'll apologize for it. Mion said she didn't have much time, but she still brought me to the gate. She said she had a meeting or something today about Sunday's Watanagashi festival, so there would be a lot of people from the town council and the festival committee coming. Oh boy, much more messages. Might be the only stream in my memory where I've had no viewers. I usually, like, back in the day before I used to stream stuff with Josh, like when I would stream in like 2018 or so, I would have pretty poor turnout, but I knew that, so I would usually try to like confirm at least one person would join chat for me, like one of my friends. So I would do that. But this time, you know, I've usually been getting 2 people in each Higurashi stream, and I've just gotten nothing. today. So it's interesting. I think this might be the first time ever that I've just had a completely no viewer stream. I really do wonder if there's something up with the sub feed today or something, because like, I think Serena's asleep. But Daisy is usually here. I have to assume that they're just busy or something. But it's possible the sub feed didn't notify them or something like that. Oh well. Despite her day being so busy, she still listened to what I had to say. If there's a God in heaven, then he probably understands how strongly you feel. Yeah. I'm really sorry for being so weird today. You can pretend like this discussion never happened if you want. Okay. I'll forget about it. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. I'd really only spent a short time with Mion. Talking to her made me think. It was clear that what Takano-san had told me at least wasn't a complete fabrication. If Mion was really, really unconnected to the incidents, then she probably wouldn't have listened to me so quietly. She heard me out until I was done without making any quips, and I wanted to think that was proof. I did kind of feel like I was grasping at straws. Of course, thinking back on it, it was a terrible thing to discuss. I mean, I went to my friend's house, called her a serial murderer, and then told her to kill Satoko's uncle. I was the only one talking that whole time. Mion quietly listened to everything I had to say like a pastor listening to a confession. She could have gotten angry partway through, told me off, and to go wash my face in miso soup and come back later. But she didn't. Was that proof that Mion's family, the Sonozaki, were the masterminds? Or was she just listening because she felt sorry for me going kind of crazy? I didn't know which it was. But it was the one effort I could make at the moment. It was another form of insurance. Should worst come to worst and the public agency decided to wait and see. It was a completely useless resistance. Literally grasping at straws. Literally, figuratively grasping at straws. Sensei said that if she reported it to the Child Consultation Center, they'd have to respond on the same day. Could they already be in the middle of responding to it now? If Satoko came to school tomorrow morning all energetic, then everything would just be a needless fear. Why couldn't tomorrow come faster? That night was unusually hot and humid, and I couldn't get to sleep. I said all that to Sensei. They couldn't possibly decide to wait and see again this year. Satoko, what was it like for her tonight? Had she tasted the end of her nightmare, enjoying a night of liberation? I actually put my hands together and prayed into my futon. Is it going to be the do-do-do song? Good morning, Keiichi-kun. Morning. Thank goodness. I thought you overslept today too. Your mom said you'd be gone on ahead yesterday. You'd gone on ahead yesterday and then you weren't at school. I was worried that you had gotten a heat stroke halfway there. Yeah, I'm very sorry for all the worry I caused you yesterday. Hey, good morning. What the hell? Did she just say hey, good morning in English?
Hey, good morning.
Mion's cute. Mi-chan, good morning. Are you alright? You look really tired. Alright, wasn't there a big business meeting with all the people on the town council yesterday? They only called it that. It was more like a party. We have the festival every year, right? We wouldn't have had any annoying meetings at this point. Are you gonna help out with the festival this afternoon then? Yep. I have to do a meet and greet with all sorts of people in Grandma's place. Besides, they already started setting up for the festival. Our morning conversation was lighthearted as usual. Yeah, this song. This is the one I thought was going to play it. Looked like Mion had thankfully forgotten about how I'd barged into her house yesterday with all that crazy talk. The more I think back on it, I felt like I'd really said something terrible to her. I was really thoughtless, and it wouldn't have been weird if she had yelled at me. It was highly possible Takano-san had exaggerated her story. To think that our comrade and friend Mion, the young leader of the Sonozakis, one of the 3 families effectively controlling Hinamizawa, was pulling the strings behind the serial death incidents was a little unbelievable. But if there was even a 1% chance that it was true, then what I said yesterday to Mion might have been a success. Yes, it was no more than 1 in 100, but that little bit of effort might have brought the chances of saving Satoko up by even a tiny bit. At least I'd made that effort. After yesterday ended, I was sure I'd done everything I possibly could. If there was something else I could do, it was probably just to clap my hands and pray that Satoko's uncle would be killed by the curse. I hope Satoko makes it today. Me too. Sensei's doing things for her, right? I'm sure it'll be fine. My aunt is a welfare agent in the Hinamizawa district. I gave her a call last night. Huh? I didn't know your aunt was a welfare officer. What happened? Did you tell her about Satoko-chan? Yep. Chie-sensei called the Okinomiya Child Consultation Center right after we talked to her. A child welfare officer apparently visited before the night was over. My aunt said that they were going to pay visits at regular intervals from now on. Enough with the dumb little stuff. I want to know what happened to Satoko. Did they get her safe? My aunt wasn't that informed about it. I was supposed to keep this a secret anyway. Her telling me was a big breach of ethics in the first place. Damn, that makes me feel even worse. Let's get to school. Right. Discussing this more would just make us feel worse. It was far quicker to go to school and see if Satoko was safe or not. The 3 of us nodded and ran off. Was Satoko safe? What measures had the Child Consultation Center taken? I didn't care what, as long as we could go back to our peaceful life with Satoko today. It didn't matter to me. At the shoe racks at the entrance, Arena took a peek in Satoko's shoe cubby. Ah! Satoko's shoes are here! They're here! Kei-chan! Satoko came! Thank goodness! We don't know if anything happened just because she came to school. We can't know anything until we see her face. We trotted towards the classroom. The classroom was lively as it usually was in the morning. Satoko! Where are you? Meep. She's right here. It's too early in the morning to be so loud. Would you please keep it down a bit? Satoko-chan! Are you okay? All of our friends crowded around Satoko excitedly. So, Satoko, how did it go at your house? Who was it that called them? I swear, it was quite a mess, you know. It was the teacher. You were absent for so long, of course she was worried. Satoko said, I told you I'm fine, under her breath. She was still trying to overcome all the suffering on her own. It was a big bother to both me and my uncle. That person just barged on us suddenly. Jeez. Everyone was worried about you, Satoko. Don't say it was a bother. Ah, jeez! Anyway, what happened? Nothing happened. Oh! My cold got better, so I came to school, that's all. I can't take too much time off from now on because then you'll all worry about me. What was Satoko saying? What happened to, well, your uncle? Ah, he admitted there was some misunderstandings and we both apologized. Tug. Rika-chan grabbed the back of my collar and pulled me away. What is it, Rika-chan? Rika-chan silently dragged me all the way into the hallway. Rika-chan, what did that mean? Satoko said nothing was happening and chased them away. That idiot! But why? No. Somewhere in my mind I thought it might turn out like this. Satoko didn't ask for anyone's help. She didn't hide behind anyone. She was trying to ride out this pain. She wanted to show Satoshi proof that if he came back to them, she wouldn't need to hide behind him anymore. But Coach said probation officers can bring her to safety in an emergency even if it's against her wishes. However much Satoko denies the abuse, it's a fact! Chie-sensei finally came. Her expression was far from cheerful. Yes, you're right, Maebara-kun. If the child welfare officer determines that it's an emergency, they have the right to immediately take them to safety, regardless of the affected party's intent. Then why? Why is Satoko's intent being respected so much? It's weird! Why don't they put her into safety? Well, after looking into it from many angles, that's what the Okinomiya Child Consultation Center determined. What the hell is that? Sensei, didn't you say it was gonna be alright since you'd definitely save her? What's the meaning of this? Doesn't make any sense! Answer me, damn it! Keiichi, this is actually the third time. It happened twice in the past, too. Furude-san. Sensei tried to stop her, but Rika-chan went on speaking anyway. Twice before? I heard they decided to wait and see after reporting it the winter before last. But it happened before then, too? Satoko's father, who died, wasn't her real father. What? Rika-chan, that's... What? I'm stunned at the sudden revelation. I had no idea what Rika-chan wanted to tell me, but it seemed really important, so I couldn't get in a word in either. Satoko's mother remarried. She brought Satoko and Satoshi with her, so they weren't related by blood to their father. Satoshi was a good kid, one who listened politely to what adults told him. He was immediately welcomed by their new father and was loved. But Satoko was different. She was rebellious, she told lies, she played pranks. Her stepfather didn't like her at all. What? So, what do you mean? Even before she was given to their uncle and his wife, Satoko didn't have a very good relationship with her family. Of course, her stepfather didn't have any malicious intent at the start. At first he must have worked hard to get his new daughter to accept him. But the young Satoko didn't make any effort at all towards that end. She was distant towards her stepfather and never opened her heart to him even a little. She just got on his nerves all the time with seemingly forced lies and pranks. Her father's discipline and punishment must have been loving at first, of course, but that too faded quickly. I don't know, because I wasn't in Hinamizawa at the time. But I learned this on the phone yesterday. What story did you hear, Sensei? That Satoko-chan wanted to trick her parents, especially her stepfather, so she made up a false story and phoned the Child Consultation Center herself. She made up a story about hurting herself? Satoko made a fake phone call to try and get rid of the father she hated. Child welfare officers rushed there and heard the story. Her father genuinely apologized for a few times when he had gone too far, and agreed to let the Child Welfare Center give him coaching. Related agencies looked into it quite a bit. They determined that Satoko-chan and her stepfather's hearts not being quite matched up was the cause of the incident. But they found another problem above that with Satoko-chan. A problem with Satoko? What was it? Satoko's mother, there were a few times where she lived with de facto husbands, though those relationships didn't result in remarriage. From a young age, Satoko had been forced to call at least 2 or 3 people her father. At some point, Satoko's pranks escalated. She would spill food on purpose, turn over her plate, and even throw it. She would break the windows in the neighborhood and shoplift candy. She would put thumbtacks everywhere and set other traps to seriously hurt people. Not in the way she did now, just to get laughs. She was also fond of telling lies that will be found out right away, and people got mad at her every time. But she never ever changed her behavior. Please don't think Satoko-chan was a problem child. Satoko-chan was young. Those were acts of self-defense that she took so those unknown men wouldn't take her mother from her. In regards to Satoko's problematic behavior, child psychology experts from public institutions indicated her actions were to draw her mother's attention to herself. They acknowledged that she had a form of harmful emotional trauma and declared that she needed counseling and therapy from professionals. They didn't know whether that therapy had healed the wounds in her heart. Satoko-chan purposely hurt herself and told them that she was being abused by her stepfather in an attempt to chase him out. But in the end, her stepfather did abuse her, right? No. All of the abuse had been made up by Satoko-chan. Her stepfather, of course, may have scolded her in a somewhat emotional way, but it was nothing out of the ordinary. Satoko had lied to chase away her stepfather, and they saw through her right away and found out that Satoko had issues. Oh, could it be that's why the winter before last, they decided to wait and see? Yes. The center had all their past records, so they needed to act carefully in case Satoko was lying. What the hell? So what? Satoko might be telling a lie, so they needed to be careful. So how does that mean they just end up waiting and seeing? It was the girl who cried wolf. That fable about telling a lie once, making others unwilling to believe you later. That's bullshit! The past has nothing to do with this, does it? Only what's really happening right now is important. Satoko's being abused by her uncle. Why is something that happened in the past getting in the way of helping her now? Neither Sensei nor Rika-chan had anything to say to that. Anyway, yesterday a probation officer visited to carefully determine what was going on. And Satoko dealt with them, put on the best, strongest smile she could manage, and denied the abuse. Of course, she was probably being threatened to keep quiet about it by her uncle. Satoko was trying to outlast everything without asking for help. Satoko wanted to wait for Satoshi to come back home, and she outright denied the truth of the abuse. What an idiot. What? You're not really enduring it. Do you really think pretending like this will actually bring Satoshi back? Just stop it already. Satoshi, he abandoned you. And the fact that he hasn't shown up to save you now is proof, isn't it? So just stop it. Please stop being weird and pretending to endure it. Forget everything we just said. Understand? If you tell anyone else, your teacher will be very mad with you. Chie-sensei gave me a warning, then left to go back to the teacher's lounge. Keiichi, please don't think Satoko is a pathetic, pitiful girl. She's living life. I know that! She's our irreplaceable friend! Satoko is still trying her best. Let's watch over her a little longer. The person from the consultation center said they visit periodically from now on. If something terrible happens, they'll help her right away. Yeah, but only after it happens! Any more than that would have sounded like I was picking a fight, so I firmly swallowed my next words and went back to the classroom. Mion and Rena were talking to Satoko like they always did. It was a silly conversation. A humorous, even fun one, like it was any old day. If Satoko really said she could still endure it, then maybe I should do as Rika-chan said and watch over her. Maybe whatever help I offer will just go unwanted. Getting through this quick when I don't have to respond to chat, huh? I do miss chat though. Okay, why don't we all have lunch? Meep. It's been a while since it's been all 5 of us. This really is how it has to be. Here, here. Come on, you too, Kei-chan. Bring your desk over. Satoko brought her own desk over as well, grinning broadly. Even knowing nothing had been resolved, this exchange was pleasant and made me remember how fun it used to be. I can't have Rika making a bento for me forever. I don't mind. I have fun making your bento. Rika-chan's such a good girl. Having such a good friend must be so reassuring. I put the big steak in mine, and the burned one in Satoko's. So if it was just Satoko, it would be so sad, so very sad. Nipa! I take it back. Well, she's Rika-chan after all. Hey, come on, look! I've got omelette rice today. Mushrooms and stuff are delicious. Delicious! Haru! I say it every time, but your craftsmanship is splendid. You could become a wife whenever and not have a problem. A wife? A wife? Eating a wife? Ah! Using the word wife is totally forbidden around Rena. Please don't say it again. I'll think about what I've done. A little. By the way, what's in your lunch, Mion? It looks different again today. We're all waiting in anticipation. It's a rich assortment of side dishes left over from what my uncle brought last night. The stew looks really great, huh? The color of the radishes, too. Really good, right? That's pretty good, right? Wow, it looks delicious. Stew tastes best when it's left overnight. This looks like it would be really good. And so there'll be none left for Satoko. I'll eat it all and tell you what I think, so just be quiet and watch. What was that? Hand over my portion, too. Hand over the pizza. Hand over the PCP. Hand over the P. Elbow, punch, headbutt. I'll use my knees, too. Oh, yeah! At close range like this, my advantage is unwavering. Kate-san, the daikon in your portion tastes really good. Damn it, coming right for me from the start and using a combo attack. How humiliating. This little exchange, how long had it been? It looked like they'd ended up going with a wait-and-see approach, but maybe her uncle had realized he'd gone a little too far and would dial it back now. If her treatment improved a little, wouldn't that be a good thing? Satoko was grinning wider than I had ever seen as she chomped down on her mouthful of the daikon she plundered from me. Did it really taste that good? Satoko was somewhat cute like that. And just as I'd done many times, I grabbed her head and started petting it. Catch. Smack! Flip, flop, clatter, clatter. Huh? Satoko-chan? It was so sudden that for a moment I didn't know what had happened. The back of my hand was stinging. I went to pet Satoko's head and then she hit my hand? What's wrong, Satoko? Satoko was scratching at her head as though a pimple or something had appeared on it and become itchy. It was so sudden and so unprovoked that I didn't understand what happened. What's wrong, Satoko? At some point, her body had been covered in a thin layer of sweat, and her breathing had turned ragged. When I pet her head, did she not like it? Was that what it meant? Hey, did you dislike being petted? Once again, slowly, I held out the palm of my hand and brought it close to Satoko's head. The instant the palm of my hand touched her head, there was a shock like static electricity, and Satoko began to howl. Oh, I didn't realize there was a piece of onion here left over from my dinner. Anyway, let me wash that down because that's kind of... My mouth's going to taste like onion now. It's raw onion as well. Anyway. Thud! Slam! She grabbed my arm in both hands, and as if flinging off a snake trying to cling to her, as if trying to throw away something dirty, she threw her violently. It happened too suddenly for me to react. I hit the desk behind me, and both it and I fell to the floor. The classroom fell deathly silent. As Satoko bellowed, it sounded like she was in the throes of death, and she unsteadily backed away. Then she threw up the food she'd just eaten. She vomited it all back up. The sound of Satoko's vomit hitting the floor rang throughout the classroom. Are you okay, Satoko? You seem sick. I reached out a hand and she swatted it away with all her might, with such extreme strength that I fell onto the floor again. Satoko put both hands on her head as though protecting it, groaned some more, and then took a few steps back. And then she began swinging both hands around. Students in nearby seats were forced to evacuate. She grabbed anything within reach, bento boxes, chairs, threw them, tossed them, and flung them about. Wait! Stop it, Satoko! What's wrong with you? She screamed out as if Mion's words had caused her physical pain. No one spoke a word to her. All the students were withdrawing behind us, leaving Satoko alone in the corner of the classroom. Around her, there were desks and chairs all over the floor. Bento lay scattered. It was terrible. All I could hear was Satoko's ragged breaths and the voices of the cicadas. I'm sorry! The strings of tension loosened around Satoko, and maybe she suddenly grew scared of her own actions because she started trembling and gave a word of apology. But nobody knew just who that apology was directed towards. So for now I decided to answer as everybody's representative. No, it's fine. Are you alright? I'm sorry. Our words didn't match each other at all. Satoko hugged her shoulders, and back she went. Bang! She ran into the locker with the cleaning supplies in it. Even that made her give a little yelp. The impact caused the bucket atop the locker to fall, making a loud sound, and that scared Satoko most of all. She almost jumped out of her skin, grabbing a bunch of the curtain in her hands. Nobody spoke to her. They could only look, not even remembering to blink. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. Satoko, what on earth? I stood up, took a step away from everyone, and approached Satoko. What happened? I said, I don't know. You're wrong. Please stop. Please forgive me. Just calm down. Satoko, do you know who I am? No more. I hate this. Every time I took a step forward, she grasped the curtains more tightly and cried out. Satoko, it's me. It's Keiichi. Don't you recognize me? I would never, ever hurt you. Come on, calm down. It's alright, I'm your friend. Help me! I don't want to be scared. It feels bad. I don't... Suddenly, my shoulders were grabbed and I was dragged backward. It was Rena. Sorry, Kate-kun. You get a little farther back. After pulling me back, she ran towards Satoko in my place. It's okay, Satoko-chan. There's nothing to be scared of. Please, please don't worry. No, 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 no worry, no, no worry. Help me, help me. Help me. As she gripped the curtains and kept calling for Nini, she continued to wail about being forgiven for something, and to be saved from something. What is this? Mion gnashed her teeth and groaned, and there were tears falling from her firmly closed eyes. What the hell? What is this? Didn't this all come to an end yesterday? Weren't we supposed to go back to our old lives? Mion! Mion! Crash. There was a crazy sound. Rena had taken the cleaning supply locker and kicked it down to the ground. Everyone stood surprised at Rena's unexpected act of brutality. After that, Rena embraced the bawling Satoko from behind and started crying with her, stifled. Rena! What's wrong? Sorry. Kate-kun, be quiet for a minute. What is it now? What happened? What did Satoko tell you? What did you hear? Shut the hell up! I told you to shut your mouth, asshole! Rena's raw, hostile emotion hit me like a brick. It was no more than a momentary howl of emotion for Rena, but it was more than that for me. She had shown me what was behind all that emotion, what was in her heart. Satoko-chan. No, 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 no more, no more. Forgive us. We couldn't do anything for you. Forgive us. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive us for being unable to do anything. Rena's words made me feel as though the blood vessels in the back of my head were suddenly all turning to ash. My vision grew distant, blurred with gray, and the world lost its color. I thought we could save Satoko. But though I knew it'd be the sooner the better, I thought there was no time limit for doing that. I never even dreamed that we could be too late. I'd been making a huge mistake. I thought Satoko could be hurt, but never that she'd break. It was such a huge mistake. People, they break. Thinking that they don't is absolutely absurd. We needed to save Satoko. We needed to save her before she broke. That fatal lapse in awareness had brought this on. Whose fault was it? That went without saying. Mine. No, ours. We all took on the duty of saving Satoko, but we were negligent to the point of laziness. In that sense, this was the inevitable result. Even if this didn't happen today and it happened tomorrow or the day after or next week, we would have just sat around doing nothing until that day. So this was the obvious result. I slumped down to my knees, just as Mion and Rika-chan had done, and I too closed my eyes tight and couldn't stop myself from sobbing. What is all the noise about? Wait, what's happened? The teacher came, and her face screwed up at the terrible spectacle before her. The instant she realized the teacher was here, Satoko went through another complete change. She wiped her face with the curtains, and like nothing happened, smiled. Hojo-san, what on earth is going on here? I just got into a little squabble with Rena-san is all. We went a little crazy over our lunches. Right? Rena didn't nod in reply. But then, since Satoko wished it, she nodded without strength. The rest of the class couldn't keep up with her extreme changes. We all just stared in a daze. It was just a little horseplay. I scared everyone out of their wits. Satoko would probably sweep the whole thing under the rug. For what? Her heart is torn to pieces, so what else? You wanted your Nini to help, didn't you? But unfortunately for you, Satoshi doesn't ever intend on coming back. It's never that easy. He won't just conveniently show up and save you. So you don't have to wait for him anymore. You can cry, beg for help, and you can't run away. Ah! We can't do anything, Mion suddenly said. She spoke then, those few words that had tormented me countless times. Those words were a spell, and when I heard them, my whole body suddenly regained its calm. My emotions all slipped away like they'd never been there, like a wave departing. And then the world's color flipped inside out. It's apparently time for a bonus game. My field of view expanded. My head grew more remarkably cold, and I felt like my mind's volume had grown even wider than the classroom we were in. At the time, my soul was doubtlessly no longer in the small, petty vessel of my head, but floating in the air a little bit above it. It was a mysterious feeling of release. I broke free of the cramped confines of my skull, and stretched out my roots in all directions as far as I wanted to. It was a strange feeling, and one I'd never felt before. An odd sense of exhilaration. My sharpened senses caused me to transcend. My mind was sharper than a knife's edge, and I immediately decided that spending the time to let myself be crushed with grief would be an absolute waste. I erased all the garbage information from my brain. I expelled the pointless emotions presenting obstacles to action. Mion, you curse it all you want. Curse our powerlessness as much as you want. Huh? If I could have taken back what had happened by crying about it, I'd have cried all day. But the fact was, this was how things had turned out. I couldn't take back what had happened. The top priority then would be to prevent the situation from worsening further, and to sever the chains of misfortune. Until today, I've been looking at things so narrow-mindedly I could scarcely believe it. To save Satoko, the only thing to do was to save Satoko. That's the only thing I thought about. I didn't allow myself to realize the most basic, direct, and certain way of removing the source of Satoko's unhappiness. No. Actually, I realized it yesterday. But as for the means, I've relied on some stupid curse from some dumb deity. I never considered carrying the task out myself. I would obliterate Satoko's uncle. There were plenty of ways to do it. This was a task that held infinite methods. Ironically, the method of saving Satoko required mostly money, but the method of killing that man pretty much took no money at all. I could kill him with the least amount of investment. The least amount of money suited him. It was only the weight of his life. I kept eliminating needless, worthless information from my head, replenishing it with only the knowledge I need to achieve my goal. I used every cell of my brain to think about how I'd kill him. The way I killed him didn't matter. I would allow any method from whatever time and whatever country as long as it ended in a quick and certain death. If I were to have an additional condition, it would be not to get caught. Removing him was an act designed to return the peaceful times we had with Satoko. If I was arrested in exchange for the removal, then we might as well have killed each other. With only him gone, we'd go back to our normal lives. That was my supreme objective. My ultimate goal. Kill him, definitely. But definitely don't leave evidence either. Two alternatives at odds with one another. The condition of not leaving a trace back to me automatically narrowed the number of murder methods. No witnesses was an absolute must. Fortunately, given the right time in Hinamizawa, there would be nobody around. I mentally reconstructed the land around Satoko's house. The number of pedestrians different at different times. The movement algorithm of the neighbors. Would I lure him out or charge at him? What would my weapon be? When and where would I carry this out? Where? It needed to be somewhere I wouldn't leave a trace. When? It needed to be as soon as possible for Satoko's safety, without wasting even a millisecond. This is absurd. Completely absurd. When I thought about it this way, it struck me how easy the act of killing was. If I could leave evidence, if I was just gonna kill him, anyone could easily turn into a murderer. But our reason prevented that. It told us doing so would get us arrested for sure. In the end, being arrested by the police was the final thing preventing people from committing homicide. Absurd. If you went all the way out into the very middle of the ocean, you wouldn't leave any trace at all. Anyone would drop those they hated into the depths if they knew that. It was all too easy to simply remove him. I could leave class right now, grab a metal baseball bat or something from the schoolyard, go to his house, and attack him. Estimated time would be 25 minutes. If I wanted us to kill each other, it wouldn't even be minutes. I could do it in 1500 seconds. I knew just how much his continued existence depended on me. He was nothing. I could expel him from this world within just 1500 seconds after making up my mind. From when I decided what to do, he only had 1500 seconds. Actually, if I ran full speed to his house, that number would go down even further. But he was alive. He was still part of this world at this very moment, having torn Satoko's body and mind to shreds. Why? Because I was letting him live. I was permitting him to live, so he was alive. If I rescinded that permission, he would be evacuating this mortal coil within 1500 seconds. You think I'd let you live to breathe even 1500 more seconds of air? I'm taking that permission back, right here, right now. You better thank me for letting you live until today. However, I actually need more than 1500 seconds. I'm not just going to end you. Getting back our old lives is far more important. It's only you I'll be cleanly cutting out of this world. They won't find a culprit. I'll forget that I dirtied my hands on the likes of you as naturally as I brush my teeth before bed. So to do that, I'll make a special exception for you and give you more than 1500 seconds. I'll give you special permission to keep on living until you have, living as you have, until I can construct the perfect plan for your murder. Wait, Keiichi. You can't let that time go to waste. Yeah, I know. I'll kill him quickly. I'll remove him with certainty. I won't even waste much time to perfect that plan. Think back. Tomorrow is Watanagashi, isn't it? Last year on the night of Watanagashi, her aunt died. Her head was busted open by some deviant and her brains splattered everywhere. That's it. He's someone who deserves to be given death on the night of Watanagashi. Hey, Oyashiro-sama. You call yourself a guardian, but you didn't protect Satoko. Cursing Satoko's family for the damn stuff is your own business. But now you've made Satoko unhappy when she didn't have anything to do with it. I, Keiichi Maebara, hereby denounce you, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa, a failure. We don't need you. Go back to the deepest, darkest part of your shrine this year. Besides, if you had just cursed and killed both her aunt and her uncle last year, none of this would have ever happened. The curse this year, it's not on you. I'll be the one deciding. It won't be the three families controlling the serial deaths behind the scenes. No, not some vague people who I can't tell if they're buffoons or not. This time, I'll be the one to deliver divine judgment. So don't get in my way, just watch. Stay quiet and watch. I'll obliterate him. I'll wipe him off the face of the earth. I will stomp out his very existence. Go away! Disappear and die! I'll tear your heart apart just like you did to Satoko! I'll have your blood as payment! Ah! Keiichi-kun, are you alright? Rena, Mion, and Rika-chan were looking after me. Had I fallen to the floor? You surprised us. You suddenly fell down. Were you having a nightmare? You were moaning. Shut it. Quit speaking to me like that. My friends gave a start and backed away. What? Rena and the others. They exchanged glances, unsure of what to say, and stood confused for a few moments. Was that your voice, Keiichi-kun? Of course it was. Hodana gulped firmly and opened her mouth.
今一瞬
For a second,
ケ
Kichikun,
イチ君
your eyes were really
すごい目
scary.
だった
My eyes? Probably just a trick of the light. Don't waste my time. Why do I have 9 messages? Holy shit.
見間違いじゃないよ
I'm not mistaken.
あんな目
I've never seen those kind of eyes before. What are these guys talking about? They've all been too scared of me lately.
前原
You're
圭一
Kichi Maibara-kun,
だよね
right? What was Rena saying? Who else do I look like except Keiichi Maibara? The look I gave her seemed to speak quite eloquently to those irritated thoughts. She understood and quickly apologized.
ごめん
I'm sorry.
気にしない
Don't worry about it. New tips unlocked. Emergency and D23 number 44. Achievement unlocked, 1500 seconds. Alright, let's read these new tips and end off for today, because I've been doing 2 chapters per thing, and I plan to end off to 2 chapters. Oh, shit. Hey, hi, Evil. You want to watch this, but being told to go into the other room, you'll watch it later. Love you all to keep up the amazing work. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoy the stream when you get around to it. And all, you know, the other videos coming and stuff. I'll be ending here soon anyway. Hope your day's going well. Thanks for showing up. Okay. Right. So yeah, I was gonna say, I plan to end after this chapter anyway, so yeah, let's just get these tips done. And hopefully next time there'll actually be more people around. Not really sure what caused it today, maybe it was just bad luck. Right. June 18th, 1983. Abuse issues regarding Satoko Hojo. Urgent. We propose that Satoko Hojo must be taken into immediate custody based on the items below. Number 1, family situation. Life with adoptive father who recently returned to Hinamizawa has already turned disastrous, and she is currently subject to unendurable physical and mental abuse from the father. 2. Child Consultation Center's response. A child probation officer was dispatched yesterday on the 17th from the Prefecture Welfare Office, but because of the 77 case, changed to continue coaching and cautionary action. Unfortunately, the consultation office head does not properly understand the situation. Number 3. Status of concerned child. Child already appears to be suffering from an outbreak of something close to neurosis or manic depression. If her unstable pubescent mind is negatively stimulated by stress, it will put her development of a healthy body and mind at risk. This cannot be allowed to continue from a humane standpoint. Number 4. Allegations made to the family court. We propose, based on the above items, that Satoko Hojo should immediately be taken into protective custody. She should be secured temporarily under emergency allegations to the family court under Article 28. We request emergency coordination between all related agencies. Children with special needs. General D23, number 44. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many? August something? I think August is the only month with 6 letters. August something, 1977. Child name. Satoko Hojo. Oh god, if it was 77, then that was 6 years ago. She would have been 6 years old. Residence, something, Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. 1. Consultation circumstances. Telephone SOS from child of child abuse. Number 2. Abuse situation. Child claims she is being physically assaulted by her adoptive father. Number 3. Family structure. White circle marks abusers. Adoptive father, real mother, older brother, child in question. Note, adoptive father and real mother entered family registry in 1970-something. The child is the daughter of the mother's previous husband. Number 4, Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the child's telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. On that day, the child welfare officer on duty visited the child's house and conducted an interview. The adoptive father sincerely listened to instruction and agreed to take child-raising workshops in the city from now on. As part of the suggested coaching, the center will continue to observe the situation. Your YouTube chat's broken. I'm sorry. Number 5. Other notes. As a result of numerous counseling sessions, it might be the live chat, top chat thing. There's also no other messages in here. Like, no one else is in the chat, for the record, so you're not missing anything. As a result of numerous counseling sessions at the city's education and consultation office regarding the child, we learned that there was a high possibility the cause of the child's excessive distrust towards her adoptive father was the result of a lack of communication. The abuse she claimed hadn't actually taken place. She had made a false report to distance herself from her adoptive father. Below is a note written in pencil by the person on duty at the time. The problem appeared to be more with the daughter. Chief Investigator F of the city's Education Consultation Office said that most of her stories of abuse were likely fabrications. They decided to shift the focus of their coaching to the child. Be cautious not to take everything the child says as truth. And there we have it. So next time, Keiichi has decided on a solution to the problem. And we'll see how that plays out. Thank you very much for coming along. I hope you enjoyed, well, I hope that, perhaps enjoyed is the wrong word. I hope that, well, you know, not enjoy like it was a pleasurable time, but I hope that, you know, this story is engaging all of you. And that you're excited to see what happens next. I'm not sure when the next stream will be. It won't be tomorrow because I have plans. But it will be when I get another good chance to do so. So you'll see hopefully in the notification thing. I hope that this reaches all my subscribers. I've been a little concerned about that recently. Actually, a lot of my videos have had less views. The past few have had much less than usual, which is just a little bit concerning. It's possible that there are other things associated with it, like perhaps, you know, school starting up or something like that. I don't know how many of my viewers are in school. Anyway, regardless, thank you all, and I'll see you next time.